Welcome, everyone, to Couch Potato Diary. My name is Peter Klein. Thank you very much for hanging out today. A very news-making weekend around the sporting world, so we're going to get to as much as we can on the show today. As always, presented by Sea of Dead. If you're watching, you saw the thing in the corner there. Check out seaofdead403.ca. We have new It Was In shirts available for pre-order now. Once we get to 20 orders on that, then we will start to get those processed and start getting those out to people. So get in on that pre-order right now. Like I said, thank you guys so much. I know the schedule's been a little all over the place. We're getting a little closer on consistency and hoping to go live here very, very soon. But yes, thank you so much for hanging out. If you want to get in touch with me, you can do so on social media. I am at Primetime Klein on Instagram, X, TikTok, Threads, and Blue Sky. If you are watching this, you can also get the show in podcast form. Just check out Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're listening there, we break up all the segments from this show on YouTube. So if you just want the basketball, if you just want the hockey, if you just want the wrestling, you can check it out on YouTube. We got it all broken up into the different playlists. So thank you guys so much. I can't thank you enough. I know I've done it 3 times already, but I do really appreciate everyone sticking with us here as the schedule has been a little all over the place in the first half of 26 with the radio duties popping up quite a bit more than what I was expecting. So, all right, let's get right into what should be a busy one today. A blockbuster in the National Hockey League as Brady Tkachuk is on his way to the Florida Panthers. And this is an interesting one to break down with a number of different layers to it. So let's try to peel away at the onion that is Brady Tkachuk heading down to Florida. So I need to start this with the caveat because I'm going to go a little hard on this, I think. Brady Tkachuk is a good player, and I am going to be saying some things that probably would lead people to believe that I'm not the biggest Brady Tkachuk guy, and I'm not. But even I will admit that this is a very, very good player in the National Hockey League. So I just have to get that right off the hop because I kind of hate this. Now, I guess I shouldn't, because I was on here when we had Julian McKenzie on. I was on here saying, like, a lot of people talking about, oh, Brady Tkachuk's going to want out of Ottawa, and I think I would let him get out of Ottawa if I were them. And so I guess there is a little bit of me where it would be a little bit hypocritical, be like, how dare you would want out, but also good for Ottawa for letting you get out of here. But I know that there is a lot of talk around the U.S. Olympic group chat or whatever, and the scouting that was happening on that. And look, we've kind of hinted at stuff like this potentially happening before, and it's never really come to fruition all that much, but now you are seeing a little bit of it. And this one's a little bit easier to draw that straight line because the dude's a blood relative to one of the guys on the Panthers. So I don't think oh my god, this Olympic thing. It's like, I mean, maybe, but I feel like there might be a bit of a different in with this particular situation compared to Dylan Larkin or even a Connor Hellebuck one. But for the Ottawa Senators, I understand why they did this. I think they did pretty well in this, depending on what happens out of it. But I can also understand why fans would be pissed, but not at the organization. I can understand why fans would be pissed at Brady Tkachuk, a guy who I think was a detriment to this team in the postseason this most recent year. And people talked about how that fight at the beginning of Game 1 against Carolina really sparked the Carolina Hurricanes. I said before, Brady Tkachuk was more focused on being a prick than being the leader of this hockey team and being the one to guide them through thick and thin. He was more focused on going out there, trying to be a pest, trying to be a rat, and trying to do all of those things instead of helping his team win. And it was actively costing his team these games. And then you have all the other stuff that's going on with the distraction around the podcast and everything like that. Like, it was getting too much. But you still had Senators fans who were, no. He's our guy. He's fine. Yeah, sure, he laughed at that joke that the president told and all of those sorts of things. And yeah, like he's going on and talking about how his goalie who's dealing with mental health issues, he's kind of chuckling along with his dad who's talking about it being distractions. But look, he's just, boys will be boys, you know? He's our guy. Because they were so worried about anything wanting to drive that guy away because they finally had this dude that they could call their own. And so they were so worried about any criticism wanting to get him out. And then the first sign of resistance, he's like, yeah, no, I'm gone. I'm out of here. I'm not going to resign. It's whatever. So I think Sens fans have every right to be pissed off at this guy today. And I think they're better off for it. Again, this is why I put the caveat at the top. Brady Tkachuk is a very good hockey player. And covering the Calgary Flames out here in Calgary, due to be the best player on that team by a ton. And they had a Tkachuk, and he also kind of left. That was a little bit different. But still, I do think, he's the lesser of the two brothers. And again, this is why I said I think the dude is good. I don't see him as best player on a championship team. I don't. I had at times, and I'm sure that he can mature in much the same way that Matthew did, right? Because Matthew was the same way. Matthew was more trying to go out there, try to pick fights, try to be that pest, than being the one who was kind of leading and elevating the team. He gets to Florida, and that kind of turns around a little bit. But for Brady, very good player. I don't see him being best player on a championship team. Now, I think he fits in with Florida excellently and makes them very good, obviously, and we'll get to that part of it in a second. But for the Sens, yes, this is a big hole that it leaves. They Julian McKenzie tweeted it out before. They needed a winger before Brady left, and now they probably need a couple. The good thing is for them is they got mucho ammunition to work with now. They get the 9th overall pick, they get the 25th overall pick, and they get a top 10 protected first in 2029, along with a second in 2027. So they got a ton to play with now. And it sounds like they're going after Jason Robertson. Love it. Perfect. A little ironic it's an American again, but that's fine. Whatever. Don't worry about that. Because that part is going to become part of the narrative. That part is going to be like, okay, well, Americans just don't want to play in Canada now. That's always kind of been there. It popped up here a lot in Calgary when Gaudreau and Tkachuk left all in one summer, but I don't think that's going to be a very big part of this year. Dylan Larkin's asking for a trade, and he's in Detroit. So maybe he's just too close to the Canadian border. Like, it's Canadian by association. But I don't think this is going to be a part of a gigantic trend or anything like that. I think if the Senators were a cup contender, then Brady Tkachuk probably wants to hang around. I think that if Brady was better, they would have been closer to that. But again, injuries popped up and all of that. Like, it is not Brady's fault that Ottawa didn't make their way past the second round or past the first round here or anything like that. But it is now on Ottawa to turn this bounty that they got for him into players that can help them now, because they are in a win now spot. And we're going to see a lot of that this summer, I think, where teams are in win-now spots but need to take half a step back and now see if they can use the assets that they acquire to take a couple of steps forward. Ottawa's going to be in that spot now, but I genuinely think they're better for it. Like I said, I don't see Brady as being that guy. Excellent player, steps up in the Olympics, and steps up the Four Nations as well. Like, he's going to be a really, 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 really good player. I just don't see him as best dude on a championship team. And I will be perfectly honest, I don't know how much leader there is in there. I think that this is a guy who has been... riding the coattails of his brother is extreme. But this is a guy who is very happy being... kind of behind, the second one in, chirping quite a lot. The one that really rubbed me the wrong way. And yet, like, the Olympic thing was what it was. But the chirping with Matthew Tkachuk going at Leon Draisaitl, and like, always the bridesmaid, Leon, da-da-da-da-da. Matthew can say that, because he's beat him twice in the Cup final. That's it. But then you got Brady in the background, yeah. You know, like, the Goonies joke has been done to death, although there's a reason for it. But you get him in the back being like, yeah, you tell him. Like, just the worst guy in any bar fight. And it's like, dude, you haven't won shit. Like, you're congratulations, you were the best player on a team that pushed the playoff powerhouse Toronto to 6 or 7 games in the first round of the playoffs. Good job, man. Now, to that point, they go on to win the gold medal, so that loses a bit of steam. But to that point, all he had done was been a very good player on a team that finished second at the Four Nations. And he's still out there doing the thing behind his brother. And that is kind of how I view him. As I don't think he's going to be Batman. He's going to be a really good Robin. But I think and there's going to be a segment that don't love this comparison. Instead of being the Robin to a Batman, I think he's more the Harley Quinn to a Joker. I think that he is more just there's someone else doing a lot of the diabolical stuff, and then he'll come in and do that after. It's not a perfect comparison, because Harley Quinn does a lot of that stuff too, but you get what I'm saying. I just don't see him as that dude, and I think Ottawa... I do think that while talent-wise this one's going to sting, I think organizationally this is going to be a good move for them. On the Panthers side, I just went pretty hard there on old Brady. this makes a lot of sense for them. And it gives them, like, he is the exact type of player that they thrive on. He is the exact type of player that fits in this organization. And when looking for a little bit more depth at forward, getting a dude who can play top line minutes is a very good thing. And I said, like, I don't think this guy's best player on a Stanley Cup team. He doesn't have to be. He, like, could be the fourth best player on this team right now. He can certainly be the fourth best player on a Stanley Cup winning team. I think he could be the second best player on a Cup team. So fourth, that's pretty good. It also helps them out a little bit long term. He does have an extension that he needs to sign at some point, but for the next couple of years, he's going to be living up to the contract that he has. And they have some big ones that are going to be coming off of the books. Or sorry, they have some big ones that aren't going to be coming off of the books for a bit. And so him being at least a touch cost controlled, I think does help them out a little bit. The one thing I think is going to be very interesting about this season is it looked like there was a touch of a sea change happening in the Stanley Cup playoffs. We didn't see a lot of the big bang boom stuff that was happening in this postseason compared to the last couple. It was more teams thriving on speed and skill, aggression on the forecheck, physical when you need to, but it was certainly a playoff that was based more on which team can be faster in the breakouts, take advantage of transition opportunities, and put pressure on teams with their speed. Brady Tkachuk's a lot of things, he ain't that. And you look at this Florida team, it looks slow, right? It does. But they won 2 Stanley Cups the last time that they were a relevant franchise, taking last year off because a bunch of their guys were beat up. And so it's going to be a really interesting experiment to see, was this a full National Hockey League sea change, or was this just the way it goes when that big bad powerhouse isn't at the top of it? Like, can Florida and this big bruising style drag everyone back into the fight with them, or was this legitimately a alteration in how winning hockey is played in the NHL? I think it's pretty easy to argue that if the Florida Panthers would have been healthy and in the playoffs, we would have seen a lot more physicality and a lot more roughness, and they would have done very, very well. But could they keep up with the pace when it got into that track meet? Because that was the way. Vegas, we don't think of them as a fast team. They were able to keep up. When it got into that track meet, they just kind of ran out of gas. Same thing with Carolina. They played a very track meet type of a style, but their main identity is being that hard checking team. So can Florida go from one to the other? Again, if Vegas could, these guys probably can too. I'm not saying they're screwed. I'm not saying they're too slow. It's just something I'm watching because it did seem like there was a shift. There was another move from the Panthers yesterday, and it did kind of seem like it was setting something up as Mackie Samoskevich goes from Florida to Seattle for that 2026 25th overall pick and a conditional second in 2027. This one, when it happened, it just screamed something else is coming down. I thought Larkin. I really did. And I kind of wish I would have tweeted it out. Not that I was unique in this opinion, but at least I would have had it on paper somewhere. But this one, it was obvious that it was freeing up either space, which Samoskevich isn't taking up a ton, or isn't going to take up a ton, and bringing in another asset so that they can try to take a big swing. And big swing they took. So that one makes a lot of sense. For Seattle, it's a bit of a steep price. I don't know if Samoskevich is a first and a second worthy, personally. It's the, 25th overall pick, so it's not like it was Seattle's, what were they, 7th or 8th, I think. It's not like they're that, but it did, if they wanted to move up, takes that away. And Samoskevich, I think that he is, right now, he fits in, and a lot of the jokes coming out of Seattle is, oh, hey, another middle six forward that this team has. He at least has the upward mobility to be kind of a top-ish line player, but I think on a top line, he's the third, right? That's kind of where I would see him projecting out as, to me, anyway. But a guy who has some experience playing with that Panthers team, so we will see. But, a very interesting day in the National Hockey League with a number of trades going down and a number of big moves kind of shaking things up in the NHL. So what do you guys think? Am I being too hard on Brady Tkachuk? And who won this trade, Panthers or Ottawa Senators? Let me know in the chat, in the comments, and we can keep that conversation going there. And while you're there, comment. I mean, they've shifted things around a little bit depending on the format. Comments a little bit further down. Sometimes they're right there. Either way, you're on the page. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button while you're there. And also turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the action around here on Couch Potato Diary. Some breaking news from the Edmonton Oilers, as another one of their trade deadline acquisitions is sticking around. Connor Murphy signing an extension with the club, very similar to one that the team signed the other day with Jason Dickinson. Let's break these two signings down from a team that is very much in desperation mode right now. So, the Edmonton Oilers are very busy leading up to the NHL draft coming up this weekend, making a couple of signings. Was going to talk about the Dickinson one, and I will talk about that in a second, but this came down while I was recording. Ryan Rashog from TSN tweeting out, sounds like Connor Murphy is extending with the Oilers 5 years at $4.1 million per year, so just a tick ahead of the Dickinson signing. I have my thoughts on the Dickinson one. Like I said, I'll get to that in a second. For Murphy, I think this is a fine contract. 5 years, maybe a little bit longer than what I would be hoping for on this particular player. Let's just pull up the stats on him here real quick. But overall, it's the type of defenseman that this team has needed, and the type of player that they have needed for a little bit. Boy, Puckpedia really messes with the recordings here, doesn't it? So the Puckpedia already has the contract in there. He's 33 years old, signing a 5-year contract. And that's where I'm really not liking some of the deals that are being made right now. $4.1 million. He has a full no move in the first, second, and third year of the contract. And then a modified no trade, 16 teams in 29-30, and 16 teams again in 30-31. So it's not... The dollar amount is fine. And that's probably why you're seeing the term on these contracts, right? We talked about it with the Radish one the other day, where I didn't love the term here. I don't like it for Edmonton either. Now, the Oilers are in a unique spot because this year is the year. If they don't win this year, McDavid's probably going to want out, and then who cares what contracts you have? You're probably going to be not as awesome anyway. So I can understand it a little bit from the Edmonton standpoint, where you just want to bring that AAV down so you have as much room to kind of play with as you can possibly have to help out this roster as much as you possibly can, especially if the Darnell Nurse trade isn't happening right away, as he is kind of trying to force his way out of town. But Murphy, he's the type of defenseman that this team needs. He, I think, did bring a bit of a boost to this club. Now, he joins at the same time that Paul Coffey goes down and once again helps everything out on that blue line. But Murphy, again, just the type of defenseman this team didn't have. I don't love the term for it. The dollar amount is fine. And for this player in particular, that dollar amount, I think it is worth it to go a couple of extra years on it and worry about the couple of extra years at the end of the contract. So I don't hate it. I don't love it. I think if we were giving grades, I think it would be kind of a thumbs in the middle, like a C+ sort of one for me. The Dickinson one, I don't like at all. I don't love the term. And if you are going to give that term, then I think you have to come down on the dollar amount. And this is one of the things. We talked about this a bit when it looked like the Oilers were going to be sputtering away a McDavid season a couple of years ago, and saying that there's always this desperation with star players, and it is always, okay, well, we need to win with this guy. This is a win now guy, so the cost doesn't matter. When you are using that as your justification for signing a contract, it's a bad contract. Good contracts help you win games too, you know? And Dickinson, yes, again, he brings a bit of defensive ability that this team doesn't have a whole lot of, especially at forward, to help them out in the defensive end. But he's not a $4 million player. And I don't care that the salary cap's going up. It's not gone up enough to make this guy a $4 million player. Again, if your justifications are, well, we have to win this year, so dollar amount doesn't matter, and the salary cap's going up, you've signed a bad contract. That is, it's like in fighting. When the first thing someone talks about with a dude is toughness, means he got his ass beat. If the first thing you talk about with a contract is the salary cap's going up, means you gave out a bad contract. And that's where I think Edmonton is at. So again, a useful, valuable player to this Edmonton Oilers team, just not at 5 years and not at $4 million a year. I think it is a wild overpay, and I think you are seeing a lot of the desperation from Edmonton coming out in that contract and the Babcock news that has also been making its way around the NHL the last couple of weeks. So the Murphy one, fine. The Dickinson one, I'm all the way out on. Where are you guys at on that contract? Hit me up on social media. I am at Primetime Klein, Instagram, X, TikTok, Threads, and Blue Sky. We can chat about it there, or let me know your thoughts in the comments. Again, thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle on this Jason Dickinson contract and the Connor Murphy one as well. And also, while you're there, hit that share button. Help spread the word of Couch Potato Diary. Share this video with your friends and like 2 people you don't like just to throw them off a little bit. And we can keep these hockey conversations going here on Couch Potato Diary. The Seattle Kraken, very busy, making a trade and also signing a contract as Bobby McMann is sticking around with the Kraken for 6 more years at $5.75 million in a move that's, it's very Seattle. Let's talk about it. So yes, Bobby McMann, trade deadline acquisition for the Seattle Kraken, is sticking around at 6 years, $5.75 million. And I feel like the way this is all trending, I'm going to be saying this a lot. I don't like the term, the dollar amount is fine. Said it on the one of the Edmonton contracts anyway, with Murphy just signing. But this one, again, 30 years old. I think that his game is going to age okay. Like, between him and Dickinson, I like this one more in terms of giving out that term. It's an extra year, but I think his game is going to age fine. And at 5.75, I think the scoring production and everything that he does, I think that's going to stick around for a little bit longer and be worth $5.75 million for it. So I think it is all right. The problem is, again, it's Seattle, and they are just accumulating a bunch of, the jokes were made a bunch, but it's a bunch of middle 6 guys. There's not a lot of difference makers. You are begging for Matty Beniers to break out and turn into that number 1 guy, or hoping that something big falls to you in the draft coming up here on Friday. But I don't know if they needed this type of a guy locked up for this long, but in terms of giving a contract to Bobby McMann, I think it's a fine one. It's just the direction I don't like in Seattle. And I think them being relatively competitive-ish this year in particular really hurt them. They had a lot of veterans on 1-year contracts, and I think they could have actually stocked the cupboards in this organization for the first time and been able to actually develop a bit of a prospect pipeline and build this team appropriately. I think they could have done that instead of, this team is destined to be battling for wildcard spots for the next entirety of Bobby McMahon's contract. Like, as they are situated right now, I don't think Bobby McMann is playing for a division champion Seattle Kraken team at any point in this contract. And so you have to look at where they're going. So again, for a Bobby McMann contract, this is fine. For Seattle, I don't know if it makes a whole lot of sense. I think they needed to pick the rebuild, tear it down direction and try to actually build something up here. I get there's the threat of the Seattle basketball team that is coming in, but I also think that fan bases are smarter now than they were a long time ago. We just have a lot of information. I'm not saying that like sports fans are better or anything like that. Older folks online, don't get mad at me. All I am saying is that we have a lot of information now. We have a lot of examples of rebuilds working. We have a lot of examples of them not, too. But I think to try to compare yourselves to Vegas because that's the obvious comparison is not going to help this team out a lot and is just going to keep setting them back a little bit. So I don't hate the contract. I just don't like that Seattle is in the business of making moves like this right now. So to me, it's a slight thumbs down, even though the contract and everything isn't bad, because I just don't like the direction that Seattle has chosen to go and just kind of hang around the murky middle for forever. But we will see. Where are you guys at on it? Am I being too harsh on this contract, or should Seattle really start to try to go in a different direction? Let me know in the comments. Hit me up on social media at Primetime Klein, and we can keep talking about it there. Also, if you want to bring Couch Potato Diary with you wherever you go, just check us out in podcast form. Search Couch Potato Diary on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. It has been a very busy offseason already with some interesting moves, and one of those featured a couple of teams on the come up as the Buffalo Sabres and San Jose Sharks made what I think is a really interesting trade. Let's break down this fascinating move that has a couple of picks on the move and a good young defenseman shifting locations. So the move, the Buffalo Sabres acquire the 20th overall pick from the San Jose Sharks in exchange for the 27th overall pick and defenseman Michael Kesslering, the team making that announcement last week. That the Sabres move up 7 spots in what is projected to be a pretty deep draft, and the Sharks are buying low on a young defenseman. So I think this is a really interesting trade. There are certainly tiers in this draft. Derek Neumeyer, who we're going to have on 960 here later on in the week, he was talking about how like his one like real tier jump kind of ends at 26. So it's a bit of a gamble here for San Jose to move that far down, although again, they have 2. So they're fine, right? Like they have the 2nd overall pick. They're in a good spot here right now, I would suggest. But it is a bit of a gamble to move down that much in a tier break and also bring in a defenseman that you're kind of taking a bit of a risk on anyway. So I do think this is a fascinating trade for Buffalo. I kind of like it. In the end, I like it for both teams. For the Sabres, again, we're talking about that tier break. They now move up into a different tier, it sounds like anyway, and have an opportunity to kind of keep that pipeline going for a young defenseman that was injured this season, didn't really factor in a whole lot when this team was really making a push and really being successful, and now frees up a little bit of the cap space, frees up a little bit of contract space, all of those things, and helps this team bolster up an asset. So I think it makes a whole lot of sense for them. On the same side, I kind of think it makes sense for San Jose also. Again, you move back, but you get a bit more of a proven commodity in Kesslering. And they need help on the blue line, significantly more help on the blue line than Buffalo does right now. Just 34 games for Kesslering last season and just 2 assists. But the season before that in Utah, he played 82 games, 7 goals, 29 points. Part of the Paterka Dome swap that was going on out there. So this one, I like this one. I think San Jose is making a pretty smart bet that this is a player that can turn things around after a bit of a down year in Buffalo. And the Sabres also making the bet that we kind of don't have room for this guy. We're already maybe looking at trading Bowen Byram. So we're obviously kind of stacked on the blue line. Let's go out, let's improve the strength of one of our other assets, see if we can get, not a difference maker, but another solid player into this organization and kind of keep this young pipeline rolling. So I think it makes sense for them. The Sharks just need NHL players, and they get one that could be pretty productive on their team as well, while staying in the first round in a draft where they already have number 2. So I think this makes a lot of sense for San Jose. What do you guys think? Who won this trade with Kesslering and the Sabres and the Sharks? Give me a shout out in the comments, and also hit me up on social media. I'm at Primetime Klein on Instagram, X, TikTok, Threads, and Blue Sky. Make sure you give me a follow. We got a lot of content getting posted up there, a lot of clips, a lot of reels, a lot of all that stuff, plus updates on when the show is going live, when we do start to go live again here with Couch Potato Diary. So make sure you give me that follow over there again, Instagram, X, TikTok, Threads, and Blue Sky. I am at Primetime Klein. When Chris McFarland made the jump from the Colorado Avalanche to the Nashville Predators, a lot of people were worried that that trading pipeline's now gone. They were proven wrong, as the Preds and Avalanche make an interesting move, and again, one that I think makes a lot of sense for both sides. Let's break down this trade of Central Division rivals. So, the Nashville Predators are bringing in Ross Colton along with Isaac Posh, for a 2026 and a 2027 third-round pick, plus Magnus Chorna. I like this move. Like I said, I like this move for both sides here. I think for Colorado, let's look at it first. Colton, I think, was a very productive member of the kind of depth forward group for this Avalanche side. But when you look at the salary cap issues that this team is going to be going up against, the depth that they have, is this guy going to be worth $4 million to the Avalanche? I don't think so. And when they are right up against that salary cap number, you need to make those type of assessments. So it is a good player. It's a winning player that they are shipping out, and that sucks. But this is a team that is Stanley Cup or bust. And every dollar right now is going to be so important. So if they can use that money on a couple of different spots to try to fill out this roster, then I think that's kind of the way they're going to have to go. They get a couple of picks that they can use to bolster up some kind of a trade later on and just get some kind of trade chips in there for a team that has made a lot of moves over the last little while. I think it makes sense for them to do this. And for the Predators, I love this. They now have 23 of 23 NHL roster spots filled and still $23 million in salary cap space. So use that salary cap space, bring in some useful NHL roster players, and if they're looking to turn this thing around, Colton's going to be a big part of it. And his play style, he fits the Nashville Predators, right? Like you see that and it's like, oh, yeah, that he's going to be one where by the time it's February and your team is playing the Preds, Colton's going to be out there and you're going to be like, has this guy been there for 5 years? Like it feels like it fits very, very well. He's been a part of a couple of winning organizations, also bringing that winning culture along with him to the Preds, who it's going to be an interesting year to see what they do Is Marchessault making a move? Do they get Ryan O'Reilly out of there, Stamkos out of there? If they do, then they're going in a bit of a different direction, and you can flip Colton, who is an expiring contract, and get something else for him at the deadline, or he can be that veteran who can help guide some young players through the grind of an NHL season. So I think this makes a lot of sense for the Preds, and I think it's a really smart move from the Colorado Avalanche. But what do you guys think? Who wins this deal with Colton going to the Preds? Let me know in the comments. Hit me up on social media at Primetime Klein, and we can chat about it there. Also, did you know that you can support Couch Potato Diary and my cat's insatiable treat habit with the tip jar? There is a link on YouTube and in the podcast, wherever you're consuming this. There is a link in the description. It would really, really help out the show a lot for us to be able to pick up that consistency again and get things rolling here again if you wanted to. Again, I understand the financial times that we are in right now, so a tip would be incredibly appreciated, certainly not required. Just spending your time hanging out with me here means the world to me, and I really do appreciate it. Let's shift gears now and go to the NBA. We have known that the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to have to make some moves that don't necessarily help out the basketball roster just to get them in some kind of a financial situation or just help them out roster construction-wise. And one of those moves happens yesterday as Oklahoma City makes the trade, sending Wiggins to the Hawks. Let's break this one down. So Aaron Wiggins is on his way to the Atlanta Hawks, and in exchange, Oklahoma City gets a second in 2030 and a second in 2032. If you are just looking at this from a basketball standpoint, this is highway robbery from the Atlanta Hawks, which is why it makes sense for Atlanta. They are one of the teams under the luxury tax. This one gets them a little bit closer. There is a little bit of cap finagling that needs to go on, so this trade isn't going to be official for another couple of weeks, but this one, I think when you're looking at it from a basketball standpoint, I don't know how you can't consider this a win for this Hawks club. Making a push into the playoffs last year, really exciting team. And Wiggins, while taking a step back this season, has shown that he can be a strong contributor to a playoff and a championship level basketball team. I'm not saying he's going to come in here and be the best player, and now the Hawks are going off to a title because they got the dude who got 5 points a game for Oklahoma City last year. But Wiggins, I think, was certainly a player who was probably bigger than the role he had in OKC. And so now going to a Hawks team, not perfect, but going to a Hawks team that had a need, I think this makes a lot of sense for them. For Oklahoma City, again, this is roster construction, and it is all about the financial implications of it. Because of this trade, according to Bobby Marks, because of this trade, the Thunder's tax penalty goes from $213 million to $152 million. So a $61 million savings in making a trade for a guy who's making $9 million a season. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense for Oklahoma City. So they're going to have to make some moves that make it look like they're taking half a step back basketball-wise to just free them up to be able to do anything financially. And they certainly have the depth to be able to withstand this type of a move. So it makes sense for them, not from a basketball standpoint, but from a roster construction area. And for Atlanta, I like this trade a lot for them. Where are you guys at on this deal? Is it a win for the Thunder because of the financial flexibility? Is it a win for the Hawks getting a guy who's been on a championship team? Is it a disaster for both? Let me know in the comments, and we can keep that conversation going. And while you're down there, make sure, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you know that when Couch Potato Diary is coming at you again. And if you're listening in podcast form, hit that subscribe button and make sure you leave a review. It's draft week in the NBA, so our off-season previews continue here today. We're going to be looking at the Southeast Division, a division that features a team that has the number 1 overall pick and another couple of teams that are really trying to make their move and drive up the Eastern Conference standings. So it's going to be an interesting division to break down. Let's do it now. Let's start the offseason preview of the Southeast Division with the Washington Wizards. They, of course, have the number 1 overall pick in the draft, along with the number 51 selection and the number 60 pick in this year's draft. I did a lot of the work on this ahead of time, so some of these cap numbers may be a little inexact. I will try to put up graphics and stuff to help out the case for some of these a little bit more. But for this one, Washington around $19 million under the tax. They will have the $15 million non-tax mid-level exception available in free agency, and also two large trade exceptions of $26.8 million and $13.5 million that could help them as they maybe try to come out of this rebuilding process. Right now, they just need to figure out who's part of the future. And getting this number one overall pick coming up on Tuesday, a lot of people thinking it's going to be Dubansa, who feel like no matter who they're taking, unless they go way off the board, no matter who they're taking, it is projected to be a bit of a difference maker. And so now you have to look at where does this fit in with this team, who made a couple of moves at the deadline to bring in some veteran pieces. Trae Young declines his player option, but there's still a bit of an assumption that he will stick around with Washington, just on a different contract. Anthony Davis is there. You have Sar as well, and Koulibaly, who I actually really like, but it feels like may end up being one of the odd man out there in Washington. So really it is just about figuring out who is actually a part of these future plans here for Washington. Again, they have the mid-level exception that they can help improve the basketball team. They have this number one pick that's a huge help for them, and they are going to have the space under the luxury tax and a couple of young assets that maybe just don't fit in with their team anymore. This isn't Oklahoma City. This isn't a beautifully built roster. And look at all of these options for Washington. But for the first time in a while, there's actually hope and optimism around this basketball club that maybe things are going in an interesting direction for them. Up next, the Miami Heat. They have the 13th overall pick for now, and number 41 with the Golden State Warriors, currently $39 million below the salary or below the luxury tax. The main thing with this team is, do they go big for Giannis? Do they go out and try to make that big splash? They are the team that everyone is kind of looking at right now. They've been in the murky middle for a little while, and they've always been considered a threat for a Giannis, for a whoever, because it's Miami, it's Heat culture, it's all of those things. I do wonder if this is the right move, because I don't see it with this roster. I don't. I like Norm Powell. Bam got a lot of flack for 83. I like him as a player. Aside from that, like the depth pieces are fine. Spoelstra, there was a time he was the best coach in the league. I don't see it there anymore. And if they get Giannis, it doesn't make them better than the Knicks. I don't think it makes them better than the Pistons. We'll see what the Cavs do, but I mean, maybe. Maybe the Raptors. I think they would be a tough matchup-ish for the Raptors, but maybe that. I don't know how much it greatly improves their lot in life. Now, Giannis, if he is healthy, and apparently being able to take that last part of the season off and be able to really work on himself, a lot of people are expecting this to be just a dynamic player. And a lot of times that's enough. But we just saw an NBA Finals with the power of friendship and teamwork and all of that being able to get them across the finish line in New York. I would worry a little bit about giving up too much for Giannis here. I don't think they're a Giannis away from being able to compete with the Knicks, with the Spurs, with the Thunder, and go for an NBA championship. Having that guy helps, but how much are you going to have to give up? Aside from that, they do need to improve the shooting on this team. A lot of guys who they expect to be shooters didn't really step up for them in this last season, so they either need internal growth from some of those guys or to find it externally. And then they need to figure out the Norm Powell extension. Does he work with Tyler Hero? And how does this team fit? It's a lot of pieces right now that probably should be maybe a little better than they have been. And even then, I don't know how high it gets. So I'm not the most optimistic about Miami, if you can tell. Up next, the Charlotte Hornets, everyone's darling from last season. They have the 14th overall pick and the 18th overall pick that they got from Phoenix in, I am sure, a series of trades that I'm not going to be able to figure out. $43 million under the luxury tax right now. I think it's this was a fun season for them and a good season for them and really one that you can build on. I think the main thing for this team is they need more size and they need any kind of defense. They have a lot of really exciting players, but I do think, again, when they're trying to break through into that upper echelon, they got bullied around by Orlando in that play-in game. So they're going to have to figure out how to keep that from happening. So the size is going to be important. They have the scoring down. Get some size, get some defense, and this team can actually be really dangerous and maybe take a step or two coming up here in the postseason. Continuing on with our breakdown of the Southeast Division. But first, if you could help spread the word of Couch Potato Diary and hit that share button. Share this video with your friends and like 2 or 3 people you don't like just to mess with them a little bit. That would really help. Love the community that we have built here with Couch Potato Diary, but want to give you guys some more people to talk about. So hit me up or hit them up with that share button and we can keep the conversations going with a few more people here on Couch Potato Diary. Up next, the Orlando Magic. And they are obviously one of the interesting teams, I think, in this entire offseason for the NBA. They've named Sean Sweeney as the head coach, coming over as an assistant from San Antonio. They need to unlock some of the offense here. They traded for Bane. They traded a lot for Bane to bring him in. And it felt like it was a tough fit. I thought it was a perfect fit. You still have the defense pretty well locked down, right? This is a very good defensive team. But now bring in a guy who can just be a dead-eye shooter and help you progress that way, it didn't really work. It was really clunky. So now you need to figure out what type of a team this is. And do you completely like blow this thing up? Probably not. I thought they maybe avoided the coaching change by getting to Game 7 against the Detroit Pistons. It is obvious that there seems like there's a bit of a fit issue with Banchero and Wagner that is happening there. They are over the luxury tax and they are a first apron team as it is. So I don't know if there's going to be a lot of help coming in from the outside. It is either make a basketball trade featuring Banchero and get a couple of pieces that maybe fit a little bit better, change the identity of this team entirely, or just kind of hope for the best. So they're in a bit of a difficult spot. As it sits right now, it feels like this roster is just kind of what this roster is going to be. I still think Banchero is going to be a really, really good player. And like it would be a tough fit for my Raptors with Scotty Barnes there already. But I think that this is a guy. I don't think he would have looked out of place in any of the big playoff series that we saw. Like, I think he would have fit in the NBA Finals. I think he would have fit in that Spurs-Oklahoma City series. Like, I think he can be that type of a guy. I do think that there needs to be a bit of a better system around him. So if you are thinking that the coaching's the problem, I could see them just riding it out with this. And a Banchero trade could be more available during the regular season than or maybe not more available, but still available. I still think I want to give this a shot. I think if you are looking for any kind of help here, being able to bring in a reliable ball handler and some guard help, because Suggs just can't stay healthy. If he could, I think a lot of the problems kind of go away. But I think you do need to bring in that other guy who can kind of help just be that point guard. Be that guy who just kind of sets up the offense and lets everyone kind of get into their own stuff. I think they've been lacking that for a little bit. And again, they took the number 1 seed to Game 7, and probably if Wagner doesn't get hurt, they probably win Game 7. So how much do you really want to blow this thing up? Obviously, they've made the coaching change. It's just a matter of how dramatic you want to be this offseason if you're Orlando. And lastly, it is the Atlanta Hawks. Now, they are around $11 million away from the luxury tax with a couple of moves that they have made here in the offseason. They've already brought in Wiggins. I think right now what they do need some size. That became apparent against the New York Knicks. And I think they just need a high-level player. I like Johnson a lot. I do wonder if he can be that guy right now. There's a chance, for sure. But I think they just need, like we talked with about Miami a little bit ago, and like I don't think Giannis gets them over the hump. It might be a bit of a tough fit at first, but I think Giannis could be the big guy that helps this team out in Atlanta and gets them over there. There's a reason why they are. It sounds like they're involved in a lot of the conversations with Giannis. And even if it's not Giannis, maybe they're the third team that can come in and get Jaylen Brown in that sort of a move. So I think that all they are missing is kind of that big guy up at the top of this roster. It is unfortunate for them that they won the draft lottery where that wasn't there, and then you get Flagg and you get DeBanza and all of these guys in this upcoming draft. So just the timing didn't necessarily work out for Atlanta, but they have 4 first-rounders that they can trade. They have a lot of talent that's pretty exciting. And look, I mean, they kind of gave the Knicks their toughest go in the playoffs until the Knicks beat them by 100 in Game 7, but or Game 6, sorry. But yeah, no, 6 or 7. Either way, doesn't matter. There's a lot to be excited about in Atlanta, and they have a lot that they can do to make this team even more exciting. So what do you guys think? Who is the favorite to come out of the Southeast Division here in the NBA? I know divisions aren't necessarily the big thing we focus on. It's just my way of kind of breaking things up a little bit. But let me know in the comments, and we can keep the conversation going there. Also, basketball fans, did you know you can bring Couch Potato Diary with you wherever you go? Just search out Couch Potato Diary on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, that's going to do it for Couch Potato Diary. We had a lot to cover on this show today, and there's still a lot more to go. So we're going to try to get these out here as the week rolls on. But you can always follow me on social media. I am at Primetime Klein on Instagram, X, TikTok, Threads, and Blue Sky. Hit me up on there, and we can keep chatting sports all day long. Plus, you can get up to date on everything going on with Couch Potato Diary and all the other things that I'm working on that keeps me away from Couch Potato Diary. If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the like button as well. It would really appreciate, it would really help me out, and I would really appreciate it if you're able to do that. Hit subscribe. If you're watching Daily Motion, it has the follow button, but they also have the hearts there. So hit that like button, share this video with the people that you know, and help spread the word here of Couch Potato Diary. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeart, wherever you get podcasts, this is available. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, leave a review. That stuff really does help out as we try to grow this show. So like I said, I can't promise anything because schedule's all over the place, but going to try to get as much out to you guys as I can, as quickly as I can, especially as news is breaking here throughout the summer. So thank you guys so much for hanging out today, and I will talk to all of you later. Have a great rest of your day.